Thank you for listening, only on YouTube Audio. Chapter 4, Blood and Resolve, the Brotherhood of the Silent Blade. The cold night air whispered through the dense forest, carrying a haunting melody of rustling leaves and distant howls. Aldric Lorne stood at the edge of the Brotherhood's encampment, his hand resting on the hilt of his sword. The firelight danced across his face, accentuating the sharp lines of his features and the shadows under his eyes. He had not slept. The weight of his choices and the Brotherhood's precarious future churned in his thoughts, refusing to let him rest. Behind him, the captive groaned, a sound both pitiful and defiant. Bound to a thick oak tree, the man struggled weakly against the ropes biting into his wrists. His tunic, once bearing the proud sigil of the king, was torn and bloodied. The metallic scent of his wounds mingled with the earth's dampness, creating an atmosphere of grim finality. Yet the man's eyes still burned with defiance. "You've been quiet," Aldric said, his voice low but steady as he approached the prisoner. "Silence can be a virtue, but here, it serves no purpose. Speak, and perhaps this night won't be your last." The captive lifted his head, wincing as his neck strained against the ropes. His bloodshot eyes narrowed. "You think I fear death," he spat, a weak laugh escaping his cracked lips. "I serve the king, and he serves the light. Kill me if you must, but I'll not betray my vows." Aldric crouched, leveling his gaze with the man's. "Vows," he murmured, almost to himself. "Once, I too was bound by such ideals. But they mean nothing when the men you serve twist them for their own gain." The man's lips curled into a sneer. "A knight who turned his back on his oaths. Tell me, do you sleep better now, knowing you've traded honor for shadows?" Aldric's eyes flickered with a momentary flash of anger, but he quickly suppressed it. "Honor," he said, "is a luxury afforded to those who don't have to survive." The crackling of the campfire grew louder in the silence that followed. Aldric could feel the weight of the other Brotherhood members' eyes on him, though none intervened. This was his task, and they would not offer him assistance unless ordered. The sound of heavy footsteps interrupted the tense stillness. Malric, the Brotherhood's leader, emerged from the shadows like a wolf stalking its prey. His broad shoulders and scarred face radiated authority, and the firelight gleamed off the wickedly curved dagger in his hand. "You waste time, Lorne," Malric growled, his gravelly voice filling the clearing. "The king's dogs don't give up their secrets for kind words. They need a firmer hand." Aldric rose slowly, placing himself between Malric and the captive. "Torture won't get us what we need," he said, his tone measured but firm. "Pain can force a man to say anything, but it rarely yields the truth." Malric's eyes narrowed, his lips curling into a sneer. "And you think your knightly manners will make him sing like a bird? You're naive." "I believe in methods that work," Aldric replied. "Give me until dawn." Malric's knuckles whitened around the dagger, but after a tense moment, he stepped back. "Fine. But if he's still breathing by sunrise, it's on your head." As Malric disappeared into the darkness, Aldric turned back to the captive. He crouched again, his tone softer but laced with urgency. "You heard him. Time is running out. Speak now, and you live." The man hesitated, his gaze darting between Aldric and the direction Malric had gone. His defiance faltered, replaced by fear. "The king," he began, his voice hoarse. "He knows about your Brotherhood. Your raids, your camp, it's no longer a secret." Aldric felt his stomach drop, though he kept his expression neutral. "What else?" The captive licked his dry lips, his voice trembling. "Reinforcements are on their way. 2 days, maybe 3. A larger force. If you value your lives, you'll run." Aldric studied the man's face, searching for any hint of deceit. Finding none, he rose and drew a small knife. With a swift motion, he cut through the ropes binding the prisoner's wrists. "Go," Aldric said simply. "And don't come back." The man hesitated for a moment, then stumbled to his feet. He cast a wary glance at Aldric before vanishing into the forest, his figure swallowed by the shadows. By dawn, the Brotherhood had gathered around the smoldering campfire. Aldric stood before them, recounting the captive's warning. As he spoke, murmurs rippled through the group, their expressions shifting from skepticism to concern. "We can't sit idle," Thane Varro said, his deep voice breaking through the noise. "If the king's forces are coming, we need to strike first." "And what if it's a trap?" another member countered. "Marching to meet them could lead us straight to our deaths." "Enough!" Malric barked, silencing the group. His gaze locked onto Aldric. "You brought us this information, Lorne. What do you propose?" Aldric took a deep breath, the weight of their expectations pressing on him. "We use the forest," he said. "Set traps, draw them into an ambush. If we fight them on their terms, we lose." Malric's lips twitched into a predatory grin. "Good. Then we prepare." The next hours were a flurry of activity. Scouts were dispatched to confirm the captive's claims, while the rest of the Brotherhood worked to fortify the camp. Aldric led a group into the forest, selecting strategic locations for traps. Logs were rigged to swing down from the treetops, pits were dug and lined with sharpened stakes, and hidden tripwires were set to ensnare unwary soldiers. As the sun climbed higher, Aldric found a moment of solitude at the edge of the camp. He leaned against a tree, his mind racing. He had sworn allegiance to the Brotherhood, but his heart still wrestled with doubts. Was he fighting for justice or merely trading one form of tyranny for another? "You did well with the prisoner," Thane said, approaching quietly. "Malric doesn't see it yet, but we need men like you." Aldric glanced at him. "Men like me?" "Men who think," Thane replied. "This fight isn't just about surviving. It's about building something better." Aldric nodded, though his thoughts remained conflicted. Better. The word hung in his mind, an ideal that seemed ever out of reach. As dusk fell, the Brotherhood gathered once more. Malric stood at the center, his presence commanding. "The king thinks he hunts us," he said, his voice cutting through the night. "But by this time tomorrow, he'll know what it means to fear the shadows." The group cheered, their resolve steeled. Aldric felt a flicker of hope, though it was tempered by the knowledge of what lay ahead. Tomorrow, the Brotherhood would face its greatest challenge yet, and their survival would depend on their unity and resolve. Please like and subscribe to get notified when we release new content. The Honor Code.